Hello, and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries that we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of the conversation. I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. All right, so joining me today is Josh Hayter. I believe you're the head brewer, primary brewer, principal brewer, whatever you want to be called at Spearhead. Is that correct?
I actually don't brew at all. I'm the president.
Look at that. He's too good.
Let
for
the beard
brewing.
throw
See
you.
how that is? Yeah. Well, I mean, you look like a brewer. I don't know. If you would, Josh, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into craft beer, and what you do when you're not talking to people like me about craft beer.
Excellent. Yeah. I want to start off. Thanks for having me on. This is great. I appreciate that you were able to kind of reschedule a bit to fit my busy schedule. But yeah, I mean, we've been brewing for quite a while. But my background, it's kind of funny. At one point, I didn't like beer at all. I was not a beer drinker. I drank, a lot of really good wine. I drank spirits. Being from Halifax, I was definitely, been a drinker since probably before I was born. But I was not a big fan of beer. And in 2007, my former mother-in-law she gave me a book for Christmas called Notes on a Beer Mat, and that book changed my life. It's Nick Pasley, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's out of Toronto. He's former Toronto book buyer for University of Toronto. And he wrote this book, and it's just about his crazy adventures all over the world drinking beer. But he talks so much about craft beer and like how beer is supposed to taste, and gives some kind of sometimes embellished, sometimes not history of beer, talking about like just how the big breweries kind of homogenized it and made it for like specifically they were marketing to people who didn't like beer. And that was the beer I'd had. I'd had, kind of the big macro beers, and it just wasn't for me. I'd drink some occasionally if there was nothing else around, but it just wasn't my thing. And after I read that book, I was living in Toronto at the time, so I started going out to, some of the real old school spots like Say What and the Only Cafe, and trying every different type of beer I could get my hands on, just to really educate myself to say like, do I like this or do I not like this? And I loved it. In 2008, I was at the time I was running a web development firm in Toronto. We created some blog software. So much like yourself, I just kind of because I wanted to and I loved beer, I started you've got your podcast where I went and started beersnob.ca. And it was a very tongue-in-cheek website, and I just started reviewing beer, and I did it mostly to test our blog software to start. And I was going to shut it down, and I realized at that point I had like 300 or 400 readers, and I thought that was the whole world at the time. I was like, wow, that's a
Right.
lot of people. And so a buddy of mine joined me, and we wrote that for years, and we even started doing a series of events called a Drink and Learn, where we bring in a drinking speaker. So it would be like a owner of a brewery or brewmaster or something like that, and we'd also bring in a business speaker. So it was like kind of our take on a lunch and learn.
Right.
And we did that for a few years, and that's actually how I got involved with Spearhead in the first place. Spearhead, with one of the founders, had come down and been part of our one of our drink and learn events. And then my web development company actually built Spearhead's, I think it was their second website, but it was the first good one. And from there, I became an investor, and I really wanted to get a lot more involved. And as I got more involved, I realized like, I love doing this. And one of the founders wanted out, so I actually bought him out. And at the time, we were a contract brewer. So we were, brewing in somebody else's brewery. It's,
Right.
it's for anybody who doesn't know, that's kind of like a commercial caterer renting out a commercial kitchen. And one of the unique things, though, is we always had our own brewer, like our own brewers that would go in and actually do the brews. They actually quite liked it because they got to do all the fun part of the brewing and they didn't have to stay and do all the cleanup. But
Right.
now they got to do it all. And we started our search because we were based in Toronto out of the time, in different buildings throughout Toronto, and just expanded and expanded and expanded, and ended up in Kingston. We were actually sitting in who's now one of our partners, was an investor at the time, Richard Ward. We're sitting in his office, just trying to figure out like where the hell are we going to put this brewery? Because every building we found in Toronto was either way too big or way too small. All the good old loft buildings had already been turned into condos. And we're sitting there, and he gets a call in the middle of this meeting, and he's like, "Sorry guys, this is my tenant. I have to take this." And he comes back into the room, and he's like, "You're not going to believe this, but let's take a walk next door in my other building." So we walked over, and it was at the time had been a factory for 30 years for train brakes here in Kingston, and they had originally had the whole building, and then they sold it to him and were leasing out part of it and kept leasing out smaller and smaller parts. And their phone call was to tell him like, "Hey, at the end of our lease in June, we're out." And his response was, "Could you be out in May?" Uh, and we started our build here in 2017, and we built this place in just over 10 months. Our first commercial brew out of our own building and our own home was February 2018.
Nice. That's a
Yeah,
pretty fast turnaround too.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a land speed record for a brewery that can do about 11,000 hex a year.
That's a lot of beer. I mean, coming
It
from
is.
somebody who brews 20-liter batches at a time, that's a lot of beer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we're getting up to about capacity now as well. So it's we're gonna have to start expanding soon.
And do you have room to expand currently, or do you have
We've
to?
got plenty of room. We actually built this place. So Richard Ward, who's one of my partners, his main company, he's an engineering firm. So we spec'd this place out completely to start out with cellarage that could do 10, 11,000 a year, but that we could expand out with our cellar to do up to 70,000 a year. So we've got a lot of room to grow within the building, and I mean that would require probably putting a couple of big tanks outside. We're a long way off from that, but we're growing pretty fast, and it's good to have goals.
Hey, yep, absolutely. It's always good to have goals. Awesome. Well, today we're going to be talking about one of your beers. We're going to be talking about the Hawaiian style pale ale. If you would give me a little bit of history on this, how it came about, and tell me a little bit about the beer itself, like flavor profiles and aromas and all that good stuff. Normally I do
Yeah,
this part, but
absolutely.
since this is your beer,
Well, I'm just gonna pour some into my glass here too, so I can
absolutely, I am doing the same thing.
get into the groove. I'm actually really happy to get to talk about Hawaiian because I don't get to talk about Hawaiian as much as I used to, and the reason for that is it is a 10-year-old beer.
Hmm.
2011 is when Spearhead launched with Hawaiian style pale ale, and a lot of breweries would have retired it by now, but to this day, it's still our flagship. Hawaiian is, we started it out, and Hawaiian style is actually a bit of people think we called it that because we put pineapple in it. But one of our founders had actually spent a lot of time in Hawaii. He lived there for a few years, and Hawaiian style means doing things the way you want to do them. And the premise behind Spearhead has always been, we want to make beers in traditional ways. It's handcrafted. We don't use adjuncts. Like we'll use fruit as an adjunct, but we're not going to use corn syrup. We use
Right.
natural ingredients, and we wanted to make things right, but we wanted to do things our way and make things, make what we wanted to make. Hawaiian started out on his stovetop, and then we worked it out from there. But really, to scale it up and make a real beer, we needed some real experience behind us, and that's where our brewmaster Tom Schmidt came in. Tom is, I mean, he's a legend in the industry. He knows where the bodies are because he put them there. He did. We actually have pictures of Tom. They're hilarious. Got a few of them in the tap room. You got to come out and see them. We've got a few pictures of Tom. They're in black and white, and he's picking hops off the vines when he was 18 years old in the Czech Republic. He's Czech. He grew up there. He very strongly believes that beer flows in his veins. He just actually last weekend had his mother had her 99th birthday, and every night she still has a Hawaiian. Calls it
Nice.
her medicine. She'll have one before bed every night. But Tom was the one who really helped us scale up Hawaiian to make it be able to make it at scale and make it a commercial beer. And I mean, Hawaiian style it's a bold, hoppy West Coast style IPA. You're going to get a lot of hops off the nose. It's the pineapple is not overpowering. You're not going to get a lot of pineapple juice out of it. We actually put just enough pineapple in to kind of cut the bitterness off the top of the hops. So you still get all that kind of hop flavor without quite all of the bitterness to it.
Right.
And that's what it was designed to do. It was funny, actually. A couple of years ago, we had somebody slam us on Twitter saying like, "Oh, this says pineapple, and it's not a pineapple-y pineapple juice beer." And I actually went on, did a video response to it and said like, "Hey guys, you're absolutely right. It is not a big pineapple-y juice beer. This is not a juice beer. We never intended it to be. This is a bold, piney West Coast. If I were to create this beer today and name it, I'd probably call it Hawaiian IPA instead of Hawaiian Pale Ale. But it is a pale ale. I mean, so are IPAs. But it would just for clarity for people when they were having it, I'd call it an IPA because the hop levels are at that junction. But I mean, to me, like, they say you're not supposed to love one of your kids more than any of the others. I'll admit it, Hawaiian. I probably drink more of this than anyone on the planet, even more than Tom's mom. It's have at least one every day. It's my favorite beer that we make, and I love a lot of the beers that we make. But to me, it's just still that staple that I can go back to anytime. And we've been blessed to be able to have the consistency in getting the ingredients that we want for 10 years. It's been a very
Right.
stable product for us, because that does become a problem. We had one beer that we had to stop making because the hops that we were using went extinct. So it was one of
Oh,
those.
jeez.
Yeah, I mean, we probably could have tried to find substitutes, but we're not really big on finding substitutes. We would rather make what we want to make. And, it's like we get up every day thinking, there's a perfect beverage out there for everybody. We're going to find it. That's why we've got such a wide array of what we do.
Right. Yeah. This beer. So, anybody who really knows me knows that IPA style beers like West Coast IPAs and East Coast IPAs are not really my thing. But I actually enjoy this one on occasion because you're right. The pineapple or the citrus in it actually cuts the bitterness enough for me that makes it enjoyable. That's one of the things I'm not a huge fan of with the West Coast IPAs is how bitter they are. I love the aromas and I love the flavor palette that they tend to have, but that bitterness really throws me off and makes is off-putting to me. And this is well balanced. I mean, yeah, it's got bitterness to it, and yeah, it's hoppy, but it's like it's not an even kind of flavor, but it is balanced enough that I can enjoy it and not be like, oh, what the hell did I just drink?
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm a hophead. I like those as well. Those beers that'll like just punch you in the mouth with the hops. But I'm a big fan of balanced beers, and I think you'll actually find that throughout our lineup of beer. That one of the ones that you and I had talked about in the past was the Big Kahuna,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 100 IBUs, and you would never tell by tasting it because it's got such a malt back to it.
Yeah.
It's just we strive to have that good balance. To me, a good beer, there's for any palate. If you don't like IPAs, you're not going to like an IPA. But for any, to me, a good beer it shows itself when it starts to warm up. Like if you're sitting there and the beer's been sitting on the desk for a little bit, does it still taste good at a half an hour when it started to warm up a little bit? Because everything
Right.
tastes good when it's -1 degree.
Yeah,
because a lot
when
of
it
the
has no
flavors are
flavor.
restricted by the cold. Yeah. Where it's, as it starts to warm up and it gets to that 3, 4, even 5 degrees, that's really the mark of a good beer for me. That's tells me like where they stand.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. This one is one, like I said, I can enjoy on occasion. My absolute favorite beer that you guys have created was one of the barrel aged Big Kahuna that you guys had.
Okay.
Was that last year before? I don't remember when it was I
Kahuna
got
was
it.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought 3 bottles of it, and I really wish I would have bought 6 because I really enjoyed the barrel aging on that. Just changed the flavor profile and the overall feel of that beer so much from the standard Big Kahuna that I sat down with a 750 ml bottle and I just kept pouring it until it was gone. I mean,
That's
and
dangerous.
that's not some. Yeah. Well, and that's not something I typically do with IPA style beers. I mean, typically I'm like one and done with an IPA type beer. And, yeah, I drank the entire bottle while watching TV and I was like, oh shit, I just drank this entire thing.
Well, we've got a 2 year barrel aged, because we put out our barrel aged bottles at in around the holidays, and we've got a 2 year barrel aged Belgian stout coming out this year.
Oh, I will have to get that because I do love my Belgian stouts. That was the other one I bought from you guys was your Belgian stout that was barrel aged, and that one was fantastic as well. Or
Yeah,
was that that was barrel aged, wasn't it? I think so.
Yep. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So if it was in the bottles, it was barrel aged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got so our barrel program isn't huge. We have 2 barrels that we bring in every year. We'll bring in 2 new barrels every year. Usually whiskey barrels. Just down the street from us, about 40 minutes, is a little town called Napanee, Ontario. And there's a distiller out of there called 12 Barrels, and he is generous enough to give us barrels every year. So
Oh,
we tend to
nice.
use their barrels. It's he's a really nice guy, and he likes our beer. We like his whiskey, so it's a good fit. Um, and he'll take a few bottles with him for the road if we get a couple of low fills, and call it even on the barrels. So it's been a very good. Yeah, this whole region actually has been refreshing for me because it's just such a sense of camaraderie between all the breweries and the distilleries and the cideries. Like everybody just works together. There's never been a
Yeah.
point where I mean, yeah, we all compete on the shelf, but we don't compete face to face. We're all friends, and it's just been such a good feeling for that. I know it's pretty prevalent throughout the craft beer industry in Ontario. There's a few people here and there that don't play nice in the sandbox, but for the most, it's all awesome people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole
Sometimes,
thing about
yeah,
when you get craft anything, if it's craft beer, craft whiskey, craft whatever, the people who are doing it tend to be really passionate, and they're all the same kind of cut from the same kind of cloth and have the same kind of mindset. So it just makes sense that they want to reach out and help each other as much as they can. Yeah, you're competing on for shelf space in the stores or whatever, and you're competing for customers, but are you really? I mean, in the end, if you're getting more people into the to the scene that you're in, you're not really hurting each other, you're helping each other. So
well, yeah, and like I don't know how much time you spent in Kingston, but we've got a very diverse set of breweries, which is nice. So there's only 120-ish thousand people here, and we've got 6 bricks and mortar breweries here, and they all make beer in very different styles. So it's one of those places where you can come out and do a brewery tour for 6 different breweries and have a completely different experience in each one, not only from a visual standpoint, but from a taste standpoint. So
yeah.
that's one of those things that I don't know. Kingston's just a special place for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've actually never been to Kingston. We're going to be up around that area in December. We're actually going to Belleville, so that's not too far from Kingston.
That's not far
Um,
at all. It's less than an
yeah.
hour.
So
You think you'd be able
I
to
might.
sneak over?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going up to visit some friends. My wife has some friends that live in Belleville, so we're going up to stay for the weekend with them. So I'm thinking maybe I could skirt away for an afternoon and hit a couple breweries in
Well,
Kingston.
if a couple of you'd like to come out, I'd be happy to host you and bring you around to a couple of breweries. So if we tell them ahead of time, they'll definitely make sure that there's somebody knowledgeable there for you to talk to. And it was right at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. I did I don't know, originally it was just an idea of like get a couple of buddies together to go out drinking, to be honest. But it turned out to be, we ended up calling it the Kingston Beer Fam Tour. And we got beer personalities from all over the province to come out to Kingston. I'd gone up to Ottawa with a group of guys that are all kind of on Twitter with each other all the time, talking about beer. They had invited me up to go on a brewery tours up there. So I went up and like, oh, this is awesome. Why don't you guys come down to Kingston? We'll, have tip back a few in Kingston. And it kind of snowballed. So I called one of the local hotels. They gave a good rate on the rooms. I got Kingston Tourism to buy everybody's lunch. And then I rented a bus because we needed one. And it almost feels ridiculous at this point that like we rode around on a bus all together going to all these different breweries because it was right before the pandemic hit. We were in February 2020, and then March the world ended. And like,
Right.
we often talk about it online of like, wow, like we actually were sitting next to each other on a bus.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I know a few of those guys.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of them. So I'm itching to do something like that again as soon as some of these more restrictions come down.
Right, I am so ready. I was just talking with I think you might know Drunk Pokeroo.
Oh yeah, Poke actually did make it to that, and he still regrets it.
Yeah. But I was talking with him the other day, and he was like, he stopped by Clifford Brewing for a beer after work because it's like 5 minutes from his house. And I'm like, yeah, I need to get into a bar and at a brewery and sit at the bar and just kibutz with people, talk to people, because it's been 2 years and I haven't really gone anywhere. And it's like I'm a work from home person. I've been a work from home person for ages. So my social interaction was always going out to different breweries, meeting people, talking people, drinking beer, talking beer. And I haven't really been able to do that for 2 years. And it's like, I'm sitting here just like, just raring to go. It is.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Definitely come out. You'll love our tap room. So just come have a couple of beers with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like your beers. I liked your beers enough to convince you guys to sell me one of your work shirts that you guys don't typically sell to people. And I was going to wear it today, but I through misjudgment and poor planning, I wore it 4 days ago and haven't done laundry yet.
That happens.
But it's one of my favorite shirts. It's really, I love the work shirts. I love the beers, the beer work shirts, because they're so comfortable, and they've always got that, it's supposed to be for like your pen, that little slot for your pen, but I can flip my glasses down into it, and it holds my glasses quite well when I'm not looking at a screen and things like that. So they're very utilitarian, and you guys have a really cool one. It's it's multiple colors. It's gray and black, and it's got your logo on it and the orange, and it's really nice. I've actually gotten quite a few compliments on it when I've worn it to other places.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, because it's mostly for staff only. We've got a couple of regulars that have convinced us to sell them one, so it's there's not a lot of them out there.
Well, I love the work shirts.
Spearhead on it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That shameless self-promotion is one of the best things you can do for yourself, especially if you're a smaller company or like me, a small content creator. I mean, I'm all about the promotion. I'm like, I was talking with guest I just recorded a show with at 4:00 today, and they're like, "Hey, is it okay if I promote where I work?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
Yeah. No, I mean
that's what it's all about.
You got to promote yourself.
Yeah, you do.
It's what we're it's part of the industry that a lot of people hate, but I kind of enjoy it, to be honest. Like I like getting out. I like talking to people. I like talking to people about beer. I like talking to people about our beer. I feel like if I didn't like our beer enough to talk to people about it, then I'm probably in the wrong place.
Right. Yeah. I mean that especially being the head of the company, you know, being the president, you kind of have to want to be able to talk about your product. So
Well, exactly. And like I'm one of those guys that built my entire career on networking and go out and talk to people and just like build relationships. And
yep,
the past 18, 20 months has been none of that. So
right.
it's been a real change and wake up for me.
Well, I tell you
And
what,
you know, yeah.
you guys do make great beer. I've tried most of your stuff. I mean, obviously, I haven't tried it all, but I have gotten quite a bit of your stuff. And for anyone who hasn't tried Spearhead beer, I suggest go out and get it. I mean, I know at least this one is in the LCBOs. I don't know
LCBO
about
and
your
beer
other ones
store for Hawaiian.
and beer store.
Our lighter lagers in the LCBO and the beer store, as well as our decoy lager. And then we've got coming up soon. Our Queen of Wheat is going to be for the spring, going to be coming up in the LCBO as well. So we feel like we've got a pretty well-rounded lineup for our core brands. We go from a light lager all the way to an imperial IPA. The only things I think we're probably missing off that spectrum would be a full-time stout and and we don't do any sours whatsoever. It's not in our wheelhouse. It's not what we're good at, and we're going to leave those to the people who make them really well.
Yeah.
That's one thing we don't want to put out an inferior product. And if we tried to
Right.
do something we're not good at, we don't feel like it'd be the right way to go. But
Yeah.
then we're also doing a one-off every month of something new and something special every month of the year for 2022. So it's gonna be a wild ride. The guys who make our cans hate me, but it's gonna be fun.
That's
Um,
yeah. I imagine. Oh, another design. Oh, another
yes.
design. Really?
Yeah, no, we keep our designer chained up in the basement feeding him beers, but he's working away on all the designs for 2022. We had some really cool beers coming out. So a couple of really fun collabs as well. We've never done Spearhead in general has not done a lot of collaboration beers, but we just did one that was so much fun. It wasn't even on our brew calendar. It came up out of the blue, and I looked at it and I was like, you know what? We have to do this just to have fun. We just did a collab, and I think we're the first Ontario brewery to do a collab with a Queensland brewery in Australia.
Oh, nice.
It was all done over Zoom because how else are you going to do it? A, it's pretty far away, and B, we're in the middle of a pandemic. But Sea Legs Brewery out of Brisbane, Australia, they bunch of fun folks. They reached out to a bunch of Canadian breweries, and we hit it off really well right from the beginning. And we did what we did was we got our head brewer Jacob, who is Tom, our brewmaster. Jacob's his son. Because
Okay.
he's getting up there. He's in his 70s. He was Labatt for 30 years, head of quality control over there. A couple little breweries that he helped build. He was the guy who behind Kokanee out in BC,
Okay.
and he also built Cristal Cerveza in Cuba. Rebuilt Rolling Rock when Labatt acquired it. So those are the kinds of things they used to have him do. But his son Jacob has been brewing since he could walk.
Beer in the
And
blood.
exactly. And when it was time to educate him, we sent him over to Brew Labs in Sunderland, England, just to get a
Nice.
formal education. Uh, they're very very accomplished brewers, but Jacob runs most of the day to day operations now. And so we hooked him up with the fine folks down in Australia, and over Zoom they came up with this recipe. And it started out with, okay, what ingredients can you get? Now, what ingredients can you get? So make sure that we had the exact same beer. And then we were chatting about names and trying to figure it out. And they decided they were going to do an IPA. Probably won't be to your taste because it's pretty bitter, but they decided on an IPA. And the one phrase you think of when you talk about Australians is "good day," right? They're always "good day, mate," "good day this," and "good day that." So we called it Good A, but like G apostrophe D E H. So it's like Good A.
Right.
Just total tongue in cheek, total fun. The logo for it is a kangaroo and a moose cheersing. We just threw all the typical Canadian and Australian stereotype to it, just to have fun with it. Like the moose is even wearing a Canadian tuxedo with the denim and denim and denim.
Very, very nice. Very nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I
You gotta
mean,
have fun with it.
you do. I mean, if you can't have fun with it, that you need to get out of the business because,
Yeah.
you know, especially the craft beer business. If you're a macro, fine, you're in it to make nothing but money. But if you're a craft brewer, you tend to be in it because you love what you're doing. So,
Well, that's the thing, right? Like we don't make screwdrivers. We make beer. We can only take ourselves so seriously.
right. Well, I'm going to put this out here, and you can do with it what you want. If you ever want help from an amateur brewer like myself to come up and do a collab of any sort or whatever, let me know. I've got plenty of vacation time, and I can drive to Kingston.
Nice. That should be kind of fun to do with something like that.
Yeah. What?
Well, we've got a pilot system here that we do kind of a one-off every month that doesn't get publicized. We do it with we only sell it out of our retail space, and it hits. We only do about 100 bottles, and it sells within 24 hours. It's just like it's our test kitchen. Coming out and like doing a couple of those might be really fun with our brewers to, just play around with some recipes. And then, once we hit on something that we all really like, we can do a production size.
Yeah.
Be
Like
a
I
good way
said,
to do it.
if you ever just want an amateur brewer, hey, anything but a sour. I tend to lean more towards the malty beers. So like, the English ESBs and the English milds and stouts and
Nice.
Vienna lagers and stuff like that.
Have you got
that's where
a chance to try our Amber of the North?
I have not had Amber of the North.
Okay, so it's a new beer that we just put out. So we retired a couple beers last year. We retired the Moroccan Brown. It just, it'd seen its day. It's still got its fans, but and also our Sam Roberts Band Ale, which was also kind of a ESB amber style. And
yeah, that was a good beer.
It's a really good beer, and it'll probably come back as a one-off here and there. But we're doing some new and fun things with Sam next year. That'll be a little bit different. But Amber was a spot that we felt was really missing from our lineup once we retired those two beers. So this is our Amber of the North is actually based on the design for the can anyway. It was based on a statue in northern England called the Angel of the North, which is this huge statue, but it's near actually where Jacob went to school. And he based the recipe on his time in school and all the British Reds and British Ambers that he was drinking in there at the time at the different like small hole in the wall pubs in the middle of rural England. And when we launched it, we had there's a lot of actually British expats here in Kingston calling us up and saying like, wow, this is like the exact beer that I had back home. So definitely give that one a try. It's not available right now. We made a 60 barrel batch to start. We decided we were going to make it a core brand. We made a 60 barrel batch to start, but it sold out in the first 2 weeks. So we're kind of standing like, what are we going to do? So I got another 60 barrels being packaged tomorrow and the next day, and then another 90 barrels coming out next week. So we're going to have plenty. We just didn't realize, I think, quite how much people would drink in a short period of time.
Right. Well, I mean that's one of those things. If you're bringing out a new style or a new brand for your brewery, you don't know how it's gonna be received. So you don't want to do 200 barrels and then only sell like 2 barrels worth.
Exactly. It's actually we ran into the same problem last summer when we did our Queen of Wheat. It just sold out in it was like a week and a half. That beer is actually I'm not a big fan of the wheat style beers in general, but it's probably the beer that I'm most proud of that we've ever done. I'm proud of the work we put into every beer we do. But that one actually started in February of that year. We we did an anti Valentine's Day show at our in our tap room. We called it Love's a Drag, and we put on a drag show with local
Right.
drag queen and activist Rowena Way, who was running it. And the thing that really struck me, because I actually don't come out to a lot of our own events because I'm here from 7, 8 o'clock in the morning every day. I want some time to spend with my kids.
Right.
But I came in, and because it was a special show and I wanted to come and see it. So I came in, and what struck me was we had right in the front row there was a group of people. Some folks brought their kids in, and when I say kids, they're probably teenagers, to see the drag show and to show them like you can be whoever you want to be. It's okay. Who
Yep.
you are is okay. Look at these people. They're okay. You're okay. Like, and the interaction between those kids and the performers, like it's something I'll never forget. And right then and there, we're like, okay, we got to do something that makes some sort of difference in this community. So we talked to Rowena afterwards, and she graciously agreed to be the face. Like she's on our cans, and the part of the proceeds from that beer go to help fund the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity. So
Awesome.
that one, I'm really proud of that one. We were able to, make a great beer, but also be able to give back at the same time. And that's,
Yeah, I remember that one from last year,
yeah,
and I remember it was like a gold can, wasn't it, with
yeah,
Rowena's face in the
bright
middle of it?
gold,
Yeah.
and Rowena's right on there, and it's funny because everybody's like, oh, she's got really big, big biceps and everything on the can. I'm like, no, she's like that in real life. um,
Hey, yeah,
she'll,
and you make a great point. I think more people need to realize that let people be who people are. I mean, don't don't
yeah,
don't uh, don't drag people down because you don't understand who they want to be or who they are. You know, and the more you can get a message out there that people should be more accepting of things like that, and the more we can get people to actually be more accepting of things like that, the better. I mean, so good on you
well,
guys
like
for helping out.
it speaks to our core. Like, I mean, we've always, I guess our slogan or our mantra has always been beer without boundaries. Like, just doing things like when we put pineapple juice in a beer in 2011, nobody was doing that kind of stuff. We just did our own thing. We did what we wanted to do. It was what we wanted to be and who we wanted to be. And so many people out there don't get to to do that, and it's wrong. Like the way we look at it is just wrong. Like you should be able to be who you want to be, and
Yep.
we're happy to be here and happy to support and be advocates for everybody. It's I'm a firm believer in like there's a lot of people out there. We all have different views on different things, but our sames are actually a lot more than our differences.
Yep.
You
I
get the
agree.
media and social media gets everybody fighting and like just poking at those differences, but our sames are a lot more than our differences.
Yeah, they
Um,
far outweigh the differences.
yeah, it's as opposed. I'll admit I can't get on the pumpkin spice bandwagon, but other than that, be who you want to be.
Hey, you and I are in the same boat there, buddy. You can keep your pumpkin spice, whatever. You can keep your pumpkin beers for as far as I'm concerned. They're not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I just yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask us, "Are you going to put one out?" I'm like, no, not going to happen. The pumpkin spice, like, I don't know what it is, something about it, like the taste. Like I don't even like jack o' lanterns anymore after trying a pumpkin spice latte.
Awesome. So if people are looking for your product, where can they find you guys like
So we
online
are
and things
in,
like that?
so they can get us at our website, spearheadbeer.com. They can get all of our beer there, as well as our non-alcoholic hop-infused water. It's called Aqua. They can get that there. We are in LCBO beer store with several of our SKUs. We're also in what's called the LCBO convenience outlets. It's the little convenience stores you see all over the countryside. We've got quite a few beers in a lot of those. We're also in the grocery chains. You can find quite a few of our beers in grocery. Loblaws, Sobeys, and like Foodland, those types of places
Mhm.
in particular. But online, we like anywhere in Ontario, we can go straight to your door, which is
I can attest to that.
yes. So yeah, and it shows up pretty quick and usually in pretty good condition. And if the shipping company kicks around your beer, all you got to do is shoot us an email and we'll replace it. But it's usually pretty on. They're usually pretty on point. The shipping's gotten a lot better, I think, over the pandemic.
It really has. It really has.
Yeah. So you can get our beer there. Obviously, you can come into the brewery and enjoy some beer. So you can find us, and we're in bars and restaurants right across the province, from Cornwall to Thunder Bay. You can find
Excellent.
our beer. So we're out there all the time, and if anybody else wants to pick up our beer into one of those establishments, we're happy to send it to them.
Right? Yeah. I mean, hey, if anyone who's in charge of procuring beverages for a bar or a restaurant happens to watch this show and they want to start carrying your stuff, get a hold of Josh. He'll help you out.
Yeah, I will. I'll introduce you to your local rep. You can also find our Aqua product right across the province in convenience stores and grocery stores. We're in there's a McEwen's. There's about 44 locations across Ontario, so you can find us there as well. And it's just a nice, refreshing drink. Gives you kind of the feel of sitting there having a beer without any alcohol, without any calories. There's nothing in it that's bad for you. It's just water infused with hops.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I've tried a couple different hop infused waters from a couple different breweries, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I mean, I haven't had your guys's yet. It's on the. I don't pick them up, like I don't search them out. But if I happen to be somewhere and I see one, I'm like, oh, I got to give that a try. So I haven't seen any of yours in the local stores, but maybe next time I place an order, I'll grab a sixer of it and throw it on the
It's
order.
one of those things where, like, the first one, you're like, oh, this is interesting. The second one, you're like, okay, I need 3 more. I'm up to about 8 cans a day myself.
Hey, you're staying hydrated though. That's good.
Well, yeah, it's like I'll start with coffee. I move to Aqua, and at some point, it's like, all right, Aqua, you're on the bench. Alcohol, suit up.
Beer, you're in. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. I know you've been at work all day today, and you've got things to take care of at home. So, if anyone who's watched this has enjoyed it, please click like. If you're feeling generous, subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to be notified when new episodes come out. If you have any questions for me or for Josh, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll be sure to forward anything on to him that needs to be forwarded. If you have a suggestion for a beer style, a beer, or a guest you'd like me to have on, leave those in the comments as well. Otherwise, until next time, I'm Rob from the internet. Cheers.